Welcome into Campo and Joe. Good to be with you, especially if you tuned into Facebook Live. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you checked in with any of our 1010XL social channels, video, or listened to us on a podcast, we appreciate it. Joe C. from XL Primetime, Monday through Friday on the Superstation, and Coach Campo back for another week, ready to drop some knowledge on them. You ready?
Very excited. This is game week. We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
And now, all the things that have been discussed, a new regime,
right.
new quarterback second year, Etienne coming back, and Robinson coming back from injury. There's a lot of storylines that are out there.
Yeah.
And, this is going to be fun. I really feel like this is going to be a season that the fans can look at and say, you know what, there's some improvement here.
Right.
Let's go forward.
60 minutes of ball on Sunday. That's what we're going to be able to judge this team on, as opposed to what Coach is talking about, all the what ifs. Because I live in a what if coach world, and now let's see what it looks like. Now, before we get cranking, because we got to look at the Washington Commanders, we got to talk about the 53-man roster. Just a little bit about the opening of college football weekend. Wasn't it awesome?
It was fun.
Just to have football.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm not a college aficionado, but I watched college football this weekend, and almost every game came down to the wire.
Yeah.
Notre Dame wasn't supposed to be close. They at least made it semi-close.
Right.
But Appalachian State almost won that one.
62 points in the fourth quarter,
in the fourth
Coach.
quarter. And that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And the fans, college football, the fans are crazy. But and then East Carolina,
Against
NC State, that one. And then Florida came down to the wire.
Yeah.
Florida State came down to the wire.
Yeah, it did.
I think every game I watched was like that. Other than the Notre Dame game where it was kind of under control at the end, but
it makes it makes for a thrilling start. We got lots of football ahead of us. This past Sunday is the last Sunday that you're not going to worry about not having any NFL until early mid-February. Yeah. So let's get to it. All right, so let's talk about a handful of roster pieces of news, and then we're going to get to the game. But I do think it's worth starting out with James Robinson. You mentioned him. Travis Etienne comes back from a Liz Frank injury. He is about 15 months removed from that, so he was in a much better position health-wise to come back. But what a good piece of news that James Robinson might be able to be seen in action on Sunday after a December 26th Achilles rupture.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah.
These young athletes, they could come back a lot easier than some of the veterans can. Just by being young and physical. And, I think the training staff at the Jaguars have to be applauded because, coming off an Achilles is no easy job. And it takes two. It takes the fortitude of the guy that's coming back.
Right.
But it also takes a rehab group that has the foresight to know exactly how to do it to get a guy ready. And I think they've done it. And the one thing I think Urban did was bring in the head trainer over there, which, out of a lot of negatives, that might be the biggest positive going. And I'm just excited to see him out there.
The one thing that Urban Meyer did mention last year when he came in to take over, talking about the soft tissue injuries, talking about the number of injuries that limited players from being back and healthy, missing a lot of starts. And you're right. You have to have the right formula in the offseason, keeping these guys strong and fit, but also keeping them healthy.
Well, I will say this, and I'm not going to name a bunch of names, but when I had two hips replaced. The one that I had in Dallas, I had our Dallas trainers for the rehab. It's 20-something years now, and I don't even know I had the hip.
Yeah.
Had one done here and went to a rehab outfit, and I'm going to another rehab outfit tomorrow. So, that's only 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
So it really is a combination because, I didn't do anything different in my rehab. I approached the rehab like I got to do everything I can to get back to where I don't worry about it. And that is an example, I think, of if you get the right rehab people along with your fortitude, that's fortunate.
There is no question about it. And this team needs to stay lucky, health-wise. We know it's not the deepest unit. But when you look at the 53, and you and I did a show on it last week, and we knew that it was going to be fluid and changing. And Adam Gostis is an example of a guy that was on the team, then he was off the team, and now he's back on. But overall, going into a 17-game, 18-week schedule, they're not the deepest bunch, but they do have some pieces to go out and win football.
Yeah, this is a better group. When you go with the starting 22, and I would honestly say a few backups as well.
Right.
That it's a better unit than they had a year ago. And you've heard me say a lot of times, every game comes down to sometimes 5 or 6 plays during the game if the game is competitive.
Right.
And I think we're going to have a lot more games that are competitive with this unit. And then it comes down to how do you play on that Sunday. And I'm confident that this team's going to be better than they were a year ago.
All right, so I'm showing you the depth chart that just came out, and we're looking at, I think, a good mix of veterans and an injection of youth, either first-year guys that are rookies, like Trayvon Walker, or second-year guys that are ready to step in and do a little bit more. All right, so I look at it. They made a couple of decisions. The biggest piece of news for Jaguar fans is that Ben Bartch has been listed as the starting left tackle, and that starting left guard, and Jawan Taylor's listed as the starting right tackle. Those were the two big position battles on the offensive line. I'm not going to say I'm shocked or disappointed, but I feel like I wanted Walker Little to prove that he could win that job, and he didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, it ended in a tie.
Okay.
In my mind, Jawan Taylor played better with the competition, which is
how it should be, right?
That's the way it should be. And with Walker Little, Walker Little is only a young player, and Jawan's got more experience. He's got 46 or something starts, and if it comes down to a tie, that's a real plus for the Jaguars, because if it's a tie there, with whoever doesn't win that job, they're the swing tackle.
Right.
And that means that, if they made the right decision, and if it is Jawan Taylor, they're going with the experience, which I kind of agree with if it's a tie. And, I still see some deficiencies there, but I think Walker Little athletically is going to be a long-term fix there. And he is a good – I don't think Jawan Taylor would be a great swing tackle.
Okay.
I think Little will be a great swing tackle because I think he's athletic enough to play the left side as well as the right side. Yeah. So, I'm fine with that decision. And I think Bartch, I think he's proven that he's a load in there. He's big and pretty physical.
Well, if nothing else, when you take the fact that Ben Bartch has won this job, Tyler Shatley's a proven backup. Walker Little's proven that he can, as you just described, played both positions, left and right tackle. Right. And then they go and get Van Lotten away from, did they pry him from Green Bay? That's where he came from.
Yes.
And so that's 3 guys that are much more, I would call them quality backups than this team's had before.
Absolutely. And again, I think they were hoping that Little would win the job, that it would be decidedly better because I think Jawan struggled last year. But I think he improved enough to where I'm okay with that setup the way it is right now. And when they put Shatley at center originally, I, in my mind, thought, Bartch must have shown these guys something from a year ago, and I think he did, and what he did in OTAs and everything, that, they feel pretty confident with him as well.
And Van Lanen, we don't know whether they'll be calling on him or not, but he's going to back up Brandon Sheriff. Now, the other thing that gets me a little bit is, as we're talking about, there's at least a decent amount of depth on this offensive line. Take a look at the depth chart for the wide receiver position. You got Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones as your starters. Your 4, 5, and 6 receivers are Tim Jones, Jamal Agnew, and Kendrick Pryor. That does not scream depth to me.
No, but what it does do is the 3 guys that are backups are all special teams players, and I think that's the important part of the whole thing because they've got some guys. I'm talking about pure receivers. They have a couple of pure receivers on the practice squad that they could use if things didn't go well, but to me, those back end guys, I think Agnew has probably shown enough that he can be a factor as a receiver. So he's probably the fourth guy.
Yeah, I would think so.
And then the other guy, and he's probably only a returner in the special teams.
Right.
The other two guys, Tim Jones made a name for himself.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
He won the job outright and has some ability. And then the other guy, Pryor, is a big guy that can run.
Yeah.
And he's a special teams guy.
Yeah.
So, I'm okay with that. I don't think the depth is something that you get real excited about.
Right.
But I do think that they help the ball club, especially if the guys stay healthy.
Yeah. And let's just imagine all three of those guys being productive first in special teams, doing whatever it is they're asked to do, gunner, whatever it might be. Jamal Agnew is a return guy. And then Tim Jones, who was lightning fast. If you get a four wide receiver set and he can show some of that speed and maybe find one of the weaknesses in the secondary and expose them, those are huge moments in ball games. Third and fourth, I don't know, I want to call them fourth string, but third or fourth option guys can make big plays in big games.
Well, I'd get a little bit excited, to be honest with you, if I'm in four wide receivers and I've got Kirk at one slot and Agnew at the other slot.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's putting a little pressure on the defense.
Yeah, that gives you some options.
In other situations, you got Arnold and Ingram as the two inside slot guys against some guys that can't handle them. So to me, that's a big improvement. They've got some guys that can make some plays with the ball in their hands and separate with some guys underneath.
All right, let's hit the defense here real quick because I want to come back to Trevor and what we think he might be able to do coming out of the box against the Washington Commanders. But you've got Devon Hamilton without anybody listed as his backup coach, which is still a little scary. But you've explained to us how they're going to slide left and right protection. Anyway, you got Devon Hamilton, Roy Robertson Harris, Fatukasi are going to be your three down, hand on the ground linemen. And then after that, you got Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, Foye Oluokun, and Devin Lloyd listed as the starter. So those are your linebackers. That's a front seven that's pretty good.
And that group right there
they should be attacking.
A lot better than they were a year ago.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Now, again, it's, stay healthy.
Sure.
I think they have a lot of versatility in that group right there. With being able to use Lloyd as another rusher at times. I think there's a lot of, and really when you're talking about that group, you're talking about first down heavy personnel. Yeah. Whether it's two tight ends and one back or two backs and one tight end. That's when you need the Fatukasi and the Hamilton and the Harris. But when it's third down, now all of a sudden some of those backups start to show up. You don't want Smoot and Gotsis, for example, to have to handle the load on first and second down with big people in the game on offense.
Yeah,
that's the concern.
And Dewan Smoot and Arden Key are listed behind Roy Robertson Harris. We already know that Smoot can play well off the edge in longer down situation or down and distance situations. Arden Key could line up outside or inside.
Yes, and to be honest with you, from a pass rush standpoint, they are much better with the group that they've got there right now. Yeah. They're going to be able to get to some quarterbacks.
And you're looking at Chad Muma that has a chance maybe to step up and be ready to go in case Devin Lloyd's not 100%.
The best thing about Lloyd being hurt, first of all, they had a full OTAs with Devin Lloyd. So they know what he can do mentally. He's been through you put the entire offense in OTAs and then you repeat it at training camp. The one thing you didn't have on him is seeing live action, in training camp. Well, that was a tremendous advantage for your backup linebacker in Muma.
Yeah.
Because Muma got all those reps.
Yeah.
Well, Lloyd came in, got a little bit of action the last week, showed that he can mentally, he can handle everything. I could see him playing, but I could also see Muma playing, and that's a great backup situation to have there.
They are being introduced quickly.
And both, by the way, this group right here, which is unusual to me, is, they didn't worry about, this coaching staff did not worry about who was the Mike linebacker and who was the Will linebacker.
That's true.
Inside. Tight end on one side, one time it was Muma The next time it was quartermen.
Okay. So they didn't care.
And the next time they were opposite.
Right.
So they've played both positions, which to me is a real advantage because now if you get somebody hurt, you got a guy, you can't say, well, this guy can't play a Mike in our scheme. He's only a Will. They've got a combination guys in there right now.
Is that Mike Caldwell bringing that over? He's now the defensive coordinator here, was under Todd Bowles in Tampa. Is that kind of his philosophy?
Exactly the same thing. Okay. And that to me is unusual, because usually you've got a smaller linebacker that's behind guys up front.
Right.
And then you got a guy that can take on the guards and stuff. I don't think they're worried about that. They want speed on the field, and they've got it now.
That secondary. Tyson Campbell has got a chance. We all know this, has got a chance to blossom into a very, very good player. Shaq Griffin, if I'm putting just a little tiny question mark next to somebody and probably placing it next to him, he can have a good year. He's really focused on trying to find the football, hold on to it, make plays. But what do you think about the secondary with Cisco getting a chance to be a day one starter?
Well, I think Cisco, you've heard me say before that Cisco, I think, is the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that they've improved, with Thomas out there and Wingard out there. They're not, that's where they were last year,
right?
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Jenkins has got to play better than he did. Rayshon Jenkins has got to play better than he did a year ago, which we're hopeful that he will be able to.
Right.
Little banged up, had some injuries.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's going to show. But the free safety position, Cisco, had a lot of numbers in college. Watching him out there, he's a little bit more athletic, can cover guys, and he's a good open field tackler. To me, the secondary, the key is going to be the addition of Williams at nickel.
Yeah, which he's listed here as the starter, which is good news for fans that he's healthy. He's been cleared. He's healthy and ready to go.
Right, and then the addition of Cisco, those two guys give the secondary a chance to be better than a year ago. Plus, they have Herndon, who has plenty of experience. If something happened to somebody, he could be in that nickel corner situation.
Yeah. And I don't want to call this a deep football team because it's not, but the numbers are at least starting to give you a little security looking past your starters.
Absolutely. And I think that's where you have to look at it and say, if we stay healthy and you only have to use 2 or 3 backups here or there, I think there are backups that are capable of stepping in at every position, one guy at least that has a chance to come in and be a backup and play.
All right, let's use the last handful of minutes that we have talking about the Washington Commanders, the Commodores, the Commodes, whatever you want to call them, okay?
I hope it's the Commodes on next Sunday.
Just flush them, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Let's look at them just a little bit, and I want to get to Carson Wentz, but people may not realize Coach Campo was part of Jack Del Rio's staff here in Jacksonville when this was a playoff football team. In fact, they lived off of their defense and run game. Maurice Jones-Drew and the big boys up front, the Marcus Strouds, the John Hendersons. You were part of that defensive staff.
Right.
What do we know about Jack Del Rio and what he'll try and do?
Well, I can tell you the one thing right away is he's got the same kind of up front guys. When you look at
Jonathan Allen.
Jonathan Allen and they've got a good group. Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen. They're physical up front, and I think Payne is the other guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and those guys are physical players, and that's what Jack likes for sure. So that's an advantage. They've got a couple linebackers that can run. Jamin Davis is a guy that can really run. So he has the front that can cause some problems.
Right.
And that's going to be one of the keys to the football game. Where their Achilles heel is, in my opinion, is in the secondary. They don't have guys that you would say they were very average, a lot of mistakes a year ago. Now, they played better towards the end of the year. So, the defense, I think, is going to be fairly solid.
Right.
And that's going to be a great test for our offensive guys.
And Doug Peterson comes from the NFC East. He won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia. He knows how to play call in that division. Now, it wasn't necessarily Doug Peterson versus Ron Rivera,
right?
Because Rivera just barely got in there a couple of years ago when Doug had exited. But what do you think of his knowledge of going against Washington as a whole?
I just think that he knows the type of players that they have in the East.
Yeah.
the East is known for big physical guys that are strong football players. And I think that probably the guys that Washington has some of those guys. Well, Doug is an outstanding schemer.
Right.
He's a guy that can put our guys in the best possible positions to win. So they'll be looking for things to attack them, and he'll have some knowledge of. And being out a year, he was able to watch some of those games.
True.
So he has a little bit of an idea of what's going on with the group.
I mean, I think that's a good point as well, Coach, because he had to have an idea of where he wanted to go. Probably started scouting opponents. Probably started looking at them. All right, so we have an idea of what the offense is going to look like, but let's spend a second here on Trevor Lawrence and what you think he can do from a leadership point of view, from a playmaking point of view, out of the box. Really, I feel like he wants to make a statement as soon as he gets out, just to erase 2021.
Yeah, I think it was a rough year, but I think the one thing about him is I don't think his confidence and his demeanor and his IQ was damaged. He's the guy to me that shows great poise and ability to lead. So that's going to show up in my opinion. But the thing that shows up more than anything to me is what's around him. They have some playmakers that can help him make some plays. I think how the offensive line performs, and I thought they performed okay a year ago. If they can perform a little bit better, then hopefully they will, that gives him a chance to kind of be himself. And the more confidence you have in your receivers, I think the receiver core is better. Yeah. The starters, the guys that can get open, and I think he has confidence enough in the guys that he knows where they're going to be. When a quarterback is where he needs to be is when a guy's in his face and he sees a helmet out there that's his other guys. Yeah. And he knows if he throws it over here that he's going to be there. That's how you make plays. Yeah. And when you have that same situation and he only sees a helmet and he's not quite sure the guy's going to be there, then all of a sudden he's holding the ball a little too long and makes it a difficult situation. Yeah. So hopefully this group of receivers gives him the ability to say, I know that Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, and Kirk are going to be where I expect them to be, and that gives me an opportunity to let it rip.
I kind of feel like looking at these guys, I feel like Marvin Jones in a lot of ways will become a security blanket for him because he is a sound route runner. He catches the ball, I think, for the most part, at a pretty high success rate. He doesn't have a lot of drops. And I feel like that's the guy you're describing. Then you got Christian Kirk, who can either in space close to the line of scrimmage can make things happen, or he can obviously get deep. And Zay Jones, I got to say, Coach, I think has got a lot of people. I think he's surprised a lot of people in the short time.
Yeah, he's intrigued a lot of people because of what he's done in camp. Now we'll see how it goes, but I agree with you with the first two for sure. I think, and I would even put Kirk in that same, I can get myself into positions and open. I thought it really showed against the Steelers. They were a zone football team, and Kirk had 5 catches, and he got himself into the open areas.
That's what you want.
And that's really what you have to do against those type of teams. If they can protect him with their offensive line, then it comes down to guys getting into position to be able to make plays, and I think this group has it. So I'm excited about watching them.
And we haven't mentioned the tight end.
No. Those are extra guys that can do a lot of things. I think they've got a good combination. They've got the big receiving tight end, the big blocking tight end and Manhurts that can also catch the ball at times. They've got Farrell, who's kind of a combination guy, and then they've got the 2 guys that are really slot.
Yeah, Dan Arnold can move
tight ends with Arnold and Ingram.
All right, I'm not going to get you to make a big bold prediction, but as we wrap up, who do you think has the potential, and I don't know whether you throw a stat line at us or not, but to have the biggest game, not knowing anything right now. We don't know whether this offense is going to be able to move the chains, own the time of possession, get in the actual end zone. They didn't score a lot last year, Coach. Who do you think might be able to get off and at least get off to a nice start in 2022?
Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
I think he's going to get off.
Okay.
I think he's going to make it real difficult on their defense with what he can do with his legs and his confidence level. I think he's going to show out. I think they're going to be ultra focused on Etienne.
Yeah.
But I think Doug will have some things for him. And then the other guy to me is Kirk. I think he'll show you why he's picked as high or paid as high.
Yeah, he was paid a bunch.
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned Trevor's ability to scramble.
Yes.
Because I think that is going to be a facet of his game that people are going to be going, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen learned how to throw off of his run. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to learn how to run off of his throw.
Absolutely. And I think he's primed to do exactly what you said, is to kind of show out. But it will depend on a lot of other people around him. And I think they have some people that can make some things happen.
And I think the biggest thing is, as we wrap it up, is that they have got to figure out a way to get in the end zone. They cannot stall in the red zone, which you have made a very, very good point about. People pay attention. You've got to be able to run the football inside the red zone.
And that's why I'm excited about the fact that Robinson's going to be available, because I think he's a type of runner that makes some things happen down there. They've got the ability to get Etienne on the edge, get him the ball quick, can make some people miss. So, that's the key. They've got to be able to run the football. And I look at those quick throws, out of the backfield as running plays,
right.
When they get them behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the keys. The other key is going to be their pass rush, getting to the quarterback.
Yeah. All right. We had a great time. Campo and Joe will be here at a minimum once a week, right?
Yes.
At a minimum, and then we'll try and hit you wherever else we can. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. But appreciate all y'all listening. Joe C., Coach Dave Campo, I am fired up. Let's go get a dub.
Let's go. It's game week.
That's right. We'll talk to you next week.